right, everyone. I think we're going to get started. First of all, thank you everyone for being here. This is our first in-person at our home sweet home, the Laura Bush West Bank Library, in 2.5 years. And just for the record, our speaker today, Bill, is the last speaker we had before we couldn't meet together for COVID.
Well, this COVID thing is not my fault. I'm worried that everyone would think that, like, if we invite Bill, then the whole world shuts down. It really isn't my fault.
Yeah, right, whatever. Okay. So anyway, bottom line is, thank you all for coming. And because we're kind of celebrating in person, there are snacks over there. There are cookies and veggies and different kinds of dips, lemonade, water bottles. It is a little warm in here. But on the other hand, crime's always a hot topic. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. But anyway, bottom line is, thank you so much for being here. I have a couple of announcements that I'd like to make. First off, I am so excited that we've got new members that are joining us. And I think Stephanie is here. So Stephanie Krenwell is written 2 novels in the Dr. Samantha Jenkins mystery series, and the exciting prequel is available free when you join her newsletter. I hear a book magnet there. Okay, and then we also have Tiffany Seitz, who has written 4 novels and won the Writers Police Academy 2021 Golden Donut Award, which that's a hard one. 200 words, period. That's it. That's all you get to tell a story. And it's about a photograph that they send out. So good job. And a woman of concise words. Her short story, Lost, Then Found, can be read in Next Chapters Unleash, a Beach Anthology. I think there's probably more also that have joined since I got this, but welcome very much so. I would encourage everyone to sign up for our chapter newsletter, because it really keeps you in the loop of what's going on, not only locally, but on the national level for Sisters in Crime as well. And I'll pass this around as a carrot to maybe think, oh yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, so on to Bill Woodburn. Bill Woodburn is a licensed professional counselor. How can our fictional, and today he's going to talk about how can our fictional characters do what they do? Backed by popular demand, our resident professional counselor will discuss stories our characters tell themselves. Who gets to be hero, villain, or victim? Bill Woodburn, MED, LPC-S, LMFT-S. I have no idea what that stands for, but it doesn't sound impressive.
It's for super.
It's for super, okay. Has been a counselor and workshop presenter in Austin for over 30 years. He works every day with motivation and change. At night, he writes historical murder mysteries, which are really good. Even though he never lets us, never puts them out there. You can learn more about Bill's practice at the Facebook page that's on here, and I'm just going to start passing this around. Bill?
Thank you, Kathy. So glad to be back. Oh, so glad to be back. I really enjoyed it last time, and I'm so sorry about the COVID thing that I dragged into the world. But here I am again. I am not the best writer in the room. I enjoy writing. I've done enough writing to get acquainted with some of the challenges of writing, but I'm not the best writer. I suspect I may be the best counselor in the room, though. Okay? So what I'm bringing in here is not a way to tell you how to write. What I want to do is share with you some of the lenses that we use in my profession to shine on situations to try to understand why people do what they do. Now, they're different lenses, because I never trust someone that says, oh, motivation, it's this simple, it's this, now we're all done. That's way too simple for something that is so nuanced and so human. So that's why I'm going to give you a collection of lenses, different ways to look at it that then you can apply based on what you're writing, what you're doing, what the character is. You can say, hey, let me hold this in, let me hold that in, and see if it looks different if I do this or different if I do that. So that's what I'm doing today. Just teaching you some lenses, teaching you some tricks. Y'all are storytellers. I'm a counselor, so I'm a professional story listener. Yeah, that's what I do. I listen to stories, and I take a look at stories, and I take a listen to stories. And so I love hearing stories. So let me start off real quick. With most folks who perform an action are caught in a web of 4 different pressures, 4 different influences. Okay? One of them is the event they're facing. You walk into the bank, it's a nice day, you're glad for the air conditioning, only there's a robbery going on. Now you've got an event. Okay, and the event will influence how you're going to act. I mean, you wouldn't be here if you had screwed that up at some previous time in your life. You kind of know, okay, this is an event, I have to do this. I have to do something. So we'll respond. But it's not that simple, of course, because if it was, then everyone would act the same way to a particular event. And we know for sure that doesn't happen. Luckily for writers, it doesn't happen, otherwise books would be very boring. No, people will act differently to events, but now why? Well, there's that other pressure that comes in. Biology. Now, don't you love that scene in the Miss Marple books where she creeps up on the villain and she grabs him by the throat, she wrestles him down, she grabs the gun away? No, Miss Marple doesn't do that. Why? Biology. Okay, she can do some things, she can't do others. Her toolkit is not infinite. It's based on biology. If you have a teenage sleuth, there's only certain things the teenager is going to get to do by biology. A 5'1" female is going to do it differently than a 6'2" male that was a Navy SEAL before he became a detective. Okay, and we're not even talking about the other stuff yet, just the biology. Okay, that's a pressure. That's a lens. Okay, what's biology going to do for this? And then there's another one. Yeah, history. A person's history. That's another piece of the web. What did they do before, and how does that influence what they're going to do next? What about the last time they had this event happen? What did they do? What about the last time they were up against this? What worked, what didn't? What do they regret? What are they proud of? See, our history follows us around. Now, there are 2 types of history. Number one is our personal history, right? The things that happened to me. So, one of the things I enjoy writing about is one of my short stories are based on a street mime in Berkeley in the 1960s. Because I was in Berkeley in the 1960s as a street mime. So I got some history that I can just pull. Okay, that's the old write what you know thing. Yeah, you got some history, that's okay. But each of your characters has a history. You know this, you frequently write those up. There's another piece, because I love historical. Both reading historical mysteries, writing some historical mysteries. There's capital H history. My client that told me a story about the last time she saw her father, 1942, the train station in London, and how she hugged him and smelled his wet wool coat and felt the unfamiliar pieces of his military uniform as he shipped off to North Africa and died. Never came. That's capital H history impacting personal history, and that influenced the way she reacted to some events. When she hears about World War II, it's going to be different for her. Or as my mother once said, to you it's history, to me it's my life. Okay? Different reactions. Big H history, Little H history, they come together, they make the history piece of this. But there's one more, and it's the whole subject of today. It's what in my world we call narrative, or the stories we tell ourselves about the world, about ourselves, about other people. And they're powerful. They're terrifically powerful. Matter of fact, to delve in a little bit of professional, it's like, you know, there's a reason why human beings are the dominant species of the planet. And it's not because we have great claws, we have puny claws. It's not because we have sharp teeth, we have dull teeth. We're not very fast. Well, what do we do that's special? We can cooperate in large groups. Human beings can cooperate in large groups. So there's this, excuse me. Oh, yes. Some people can cooperate, some people can't. Down the street from us, there's a new soccer stadium. And several thousand people occasionally park their cars everywhere and then walk in and then see a game and have a nice time and walk and leave. Okay, so imagine 5,000 chimpanzees all coming together for a soccer game. Okay, immediately everybody's laughing because, oh no, there is no way 5,000 chimpanzees can have a soccer game with a lot of screaming, yelling, and throwing of bananas. They just don't do that. They can't do that. They can cooperate in small groups, and they're pretty good at it. But large groups, no, they can't.
Too busy rewriting the books of Shakespeare.
Absolutely, on those thousands of typewriters. So let me give you an example here, and I've got it in my wallet. Oh, there it is. There's gold. We're going to talk about story. You know what this is, right? Dollar bill. A sort of monochromatic, highly etched photo of etching of George Washington, a little one on it. Yeah. Now, if I offered to trade a chimpanzee this for a banana, they'd say, no way. I mean, I can't eat it. It's too small to sleep on. I can't cover myself at night. Forget it. I'll take the banana. But I've offered this to you, you would say, yeah, I want the dollar. Right? Maybe more than I want a banana. Well, guys, here it is. I just did this morning. Isn't this cool? It's that little smiley face. It's got colors. I drew it. It's got a big 3, right? So it's 3 times more valuable than this, right? Right? Why not?
$3 bill.
Why not? Why is this not as valuable? It's more colorful. The picture is much cooler than this kind of sad sack George Washington thing. This has a story we all accept. This is a story that is not only accepted here, but all over the country and in other countries. People accept that this piece of paper with a really nice etching on it is actually worth something. But it's only a marker for a story that these things are worth a lot. Now, in stories, people do all sorts of things to get this. They even kill people to get this. Not many kill people to get this. They could just draw this at home. Yeah, this has got a story, very powerful one. This has no particular story. So if you want to buy it for $3, it's available. Oh, there's a cool story. I didn't realize when I started this that many years ago, there was an artist in New York City who drew these beautiful make-believe currencies, $50 bills. But I mean, he wasn't forging. They did not look anything at all like any kind of money. I mean, it was painted and all sorts of cool stuff. And he would go to restaurants and he'd try to pay with it. And they'd say, oh, this is ridiculous. And then he had a gallery exhibition. And those $50 paintings were selling for like $1,500 a piece. And so the managers of many restaurants in the area said, okay, if this weird guy comes in and he offers you this, take it. What happened, guys? Two stories. The one that says, this is what dollar bills are worth. One says, this is what art is worth. And all of a sudden, they're kind of colliding. There are powerful stories out there that collide. Let me suggest, and again, I'm not the best writer in the room, that your stories are often about 2 or 3 or 4 stories that collide in your story space. It's not one story. Is it art or is it money or is it both or is it, huh? Wow. More than one story. I can always tell a boring novel when I'm reading it because it's only got one story. I like them to have 2 or 3 or 4. I like them to bring in a character that's got another story that says this is art or this is money or this whatever that is that works. Now I have the ability to talk for hours, so I'm going to take a deep breath and ask if there are any questions so far before I launch into my next lens on how to look at stuff. Okay. Now I'm counting on you guys to help me adapt this to writing. Okay. Okay. Cool. So let's say there are different kinds of narratives, different kinds of stories that we all have inside. We have a personal story that we just repeat inside our own heads. Occasionally you can hear it when people do something, go, oh, stupid. A little bit of their personal story leaked out. Okay, they were talking to themselves. There's a family story, right? What does the family require? What does the family require that you do, not do, know, not know? If you want an absolute graduate level introduction to family story and patterns, watch the Godfather movies. It's all about family rules and roles and how that works out. Whoa, yeah, got everybody's attention. Oh yeah, that's family, that's a thing. And then they're cultural. $1 bill, it's a cultural story that we've got. So we got 3, we've got personal, and we've got family, and we've got cultural. So let me just tell you a story about a client. I never tell stories that have enough identifying information for you to know who the client is. I always change stuff, so nobody in here was that client. Absolutely. Oh, and it does have a 4-letter word, but I like it. It's a quote. I kind of have to use it. So these parents brought in a 17-year-old young man. We don't know what to do with him. I mean, we got a call once a week to go down to the principal's office and he's done something dumb. I said, well, like threaten people? No. So but something dumb. You know, he's upset the teacher. He's not turning in his work. He's talking back to class. I mean, just a mess. And he's always down. And we all have to come down and get him at the principal's office. We're getting sick of this. Bill, would you fix this? And so they put him in my room, and I'm in my room, and I look at the young man, and I say, so what's the deal with you? Oh, and he says, yeah, I'm the family fuck up. He even has a label for what he does, his story. I'm the family fuck up. I said, really? Okay, well, what's that like? He says, well, if I don't keep my parents busy saving me, their marriage wouldn't last 15 minutes. Now, I don't usually get kids that are quite that aware, but this is not unusual. They came together to go down to the principal to get their troubled son, to worry about him and discuss about him, and he is the center of attention, and all he has to do is occasionally do something stupid at school to keep that rolling. But I talked with him a little more, and I said, well, I mean, you do these sort of minor things. He goes, oh, yeah, no, man, I used to be into drugs, but, drugs can kill you.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, they have that reputation, I said, so I don't do that anymore. And I always pick stuff It doesn't go on my permanent record because I want to get to a really good school.
Oh,
Really? What do you want to do? Well, see, I want to study. See, I have these cool ideas about building apartment houses that have like gardens on top and solar and wind power, and they recycle the water for non-drinking uses. And he says, if I really can get this down, they could use it in habitats on Mars.
oh my God.
Okay, so is this guy the family fuck up, or is he the guy that's going to design the habitat on Mars? Or is he both? Depending on how he finds himself, the situation he's in. The family right now needs him to be one thing, and NASA needs him to be another. And I said, well, why don't you just let the chips fall where they may? And he says, yeah, but I have a younger sister. See, I'm out of here in a year, but she's got to stay another 6 years. I got to make this last as long as possible for her. So wait a minute. Okay, so is this your basic juvenile delinquent? Or does he have a purpose? Or does he have a nobleness? Oh, all of a sudden these stories are starting to collide. And depending on who's looking at him, they have a different story about him. If you talk to his principal, he's this gifted young man who seems to just mess up and cannot get along, and nobody knows why. If you look at the parents, he is an exasperating person who they have invested so much in and is constantly failing. And this is how I know that I've got my, oh no, okay. Constantly failing. If you ask his little sister, he's the savior of the family. So it kind of depends on who you ask. Now, one of the cool things about murder mysteries is our guys are always going around asking everybody about stuff. So you can actually bring stories in. Let me suggest that in the real world, everybody doesn't tell the same story about a person or their actions. Depending on their angle, they've got a different story about what happened and about who that person is. And we're not talking about the person's own story. We're talking just about, you get 5 or 6 people in this young man's life, they all tell a different story, and they are all very absolutely believe that they have got the story. Whoa. So they're pretty diligent about that. There's a whole novel there about who this young man is, or isn't, or will be, or won't be, or was, depending on who you talk to. Okay, now my lovely wife had her hand up, and then Kathy's doing the little hand thing, so let's go 1 and 2.
So my friend had a daycare class. She had a 3-year-old that every time her mother came to drop her off, she just cried like it was just the most terrible, awful thing in the world. Until the second her mother walked out that door. And one day she looked at her and said, "Why do you cry like that?" She says, "My mommy needs me to." A 3-year-old. My mommy needs me to know, for her to know that I need her terribly, or else she's just gonna fall apart. Kids are so smart. But also too, we all have different families. I have 6 brothers and sisters, and I swear we have 7 different sets of parents.
Now, in family therapy, we always say, even 2 kids who grew up in the same house don't grow up in the same family. Kathy, you had your hand up.
Okay, so the bottom line is, you've got maybe your protagonist and your antagonist with completely different stories.
Yes. Depending on who you talk to about them,
Right.
and depending on if you talk to them, and depending on who they're relating to for their story. Whoa.
And when they're
Just thought I'd
not
make this
able to
complicated.
come together on a story, is when they kill each other.
No, very, very, really good, really good. Let me, okay, I'm gonna hand you a term that I use in my world. It's called a social role. Okay, we all have rules that we follow, well, social rules, interpersonal rules. A collection of these becomes a role. See, I'm the presenter and you're the audience. And so I'm doing some things and you're doing some things. And we all know the game. I have certain rules that I do. You have certain things you do, certain things you don't do, things I don't do. Okay? There are lots of those. You know, You're a man, you're a woman. Different things. What do you do? Well, there's a role. Oldest child, youngest child. Different collection of rules. So this young man has got his own collection of rules, plus everyone is handing him a role. He may accept the role, he may reject the role. He can do either one. Okay? You got two people, both of them want to be savior of the family, let's say. Nothing bad about that. But each one has a different way to do it, and they clash because each one thinks they know best. Now you've got a conflict because we have enough women in the room who remember that time when you had your first child and you had to have that talk with your mom about whose child this is. It's not theirs. You were the mom. Now I'm the mom. The role has shifted from you to me. That little moment. No, I've got the role. Let's not play tug of war with this role. You had it, now I got it. Grandparent, a really cool role, by the way. Any role where you don't have to actually change diapers is a good role. So you got two or more people who have role conflict because they want to do it different. The child in the family that comes in, and their big job in the family is to get everything peaceful and get everybody happy. But there's a teenager in the family, and their role in the family is to keep everything stirred up to save the family. How do these two people get along? Not very well. They constantly think the other person is undermining them. But if we look at it from a wider lens, they're both trying to accomplish the same thing, and not a bad thing. But they're doing it in different ways and getting in each other's way. Frustrating. Now, then there's role competition. Two people going for the same role. Who's going to be father here? Who's going to be mother here? Who's going to be best friend? Who's going to save the day? People compete for these roles sometimes. And they do things to hobble the other person or to build themselves up so people accept them because they're playing to an audience. Roles are enforced by the group you're in. You can decide, I'm the coolest person ever, but if the whole group says, no, you're not, you don't get that role. So there are a lot of ways that roles conflict. It's just groups of rules. Different people have them. We're all stored in our heads. We all have a bunch of different roles. You are a young woman. You are the tech person for the Zoom. You're part of the group, or do you work at the library?
I work at the library.
Then you work at the library,
And I'm part of the group.
and you're part of the group. Okay, so you have to notice the roles start to stack up. We've all got a stack of these. And we try to make them all work together, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I am occasionally going over checking notes because this is like an all-day workshop for professionals, and I just want to make sure I don't go all. All right. One of the things that
I have read some mysteries. I'm more of a reader of mysteries than a writer of mysteries, where the protagonist detective sort of person is always in competition with the sheriffs or police or detectives because they somehow can do it better, or they're worried they're going to not get it right, or they're not going to find the person in time because they got to save the person that they know who's been accused of the whatever. But sometimes I get annoyed because really, have I met anyone in real life who really is in competition with any kind of detective? I mean, with real police people. So, I mean, what do y'all do?
but it's a classic, thank you, it's a classic role conflict that shows up. We both want the role of the person who figures this out. You want it to be you, I want it to be me. I want it to be done this way, you want it to be done that way. You have the idea that he did it, I think you're wrong. In my world, that's a role conflict. I'm going to be the person that saves the day. No, I'm going to be the person that saves the day. We're going to do it like this. Oh no, we're going to do it like this. It's role conflict in my world. One of the things also is these overlapping roles. If you want to know again about roles, Godfather movies, there is a moment. Okay, for those of you that didn't see them, for the like 2-3 people in the world didn't see it. So there was a family where the Godfather, the main guy Vito, is bringing up his eldest son, Sonny, to be the head of the criminal organization. And then Sonny gets killed. And Vito's got a problem because the next in line age-wise is Fredo, who's a total loser and can't read his way out of a paper bag. And we all know this. Even Fredo knows this, okay? Who's left? Michael. But see, Michael doesn't want to have that job. Michael's wife damn sure doesn't want him to have that job. Why? Because there are rules that come with that job. The things you can do, things you can't do, things you must do, things you must never do. Like get a good night's sleep at night, probably. I've never had that job, but it sounds like. So all of a sudden, you've got this wonderful conflict unfolding, but it's just based on family roles. And there was that poignant moment after Fredo has screwed up and screwed up and screwed up. Michael has become the leader of the family, and he goes to Michael and says, "Should have been me. I am the oldest son. You are not. This is wrong. This should be my role, not your role. I'm oldest." And then Fredo goes out and betrays the family. And there's that moment when Michael realizes, and Michael's like, okay, so there are rules for what you do with your brother, and there are rules that what you do with betrayers. But he's the brother, but he's a betrayer, but he's you can't put these roles together. They don't fit. You kill betrayers. You never hurt your brother, but you kill betrayers. But is he a betrayer or is he a brother? Wow. A few chapters in there, just trying to work out these two incompatible roles, which in that world, each must be obeyed. There's not a lot of flex in there. If he's your brother, he's your brother. You die for him, everything. And if he's a betrayer, you kill him in as physical ways you can bring. Wow. How many times have you been writing something? And really what's going on is that there are two incompatible roles, two incompatible ways of dealing with this based on how we look. Is Fredo a betrayer or is he a brother? And we can do like hands up, but really he's both. Wow. How am I doing on time? Ooh, okay. Yeah, good.
You're gonna be great at time.
Remember you said, well, this is a 4-hour workshop. You can talk 4 times as fast as usually. I try to keep my speaking below the sound barrier so it doesn't just go past. Let's talk about a couple other lenses to look at things. In my world, we have closed stories and open stories, mostly that people are telling themselves about themselves. But it could be you're telling them. A closed story is like a funnel. It's heading to a very well-known end, and nothing that anybody does seems to be able to get out of it. Now that's kind of cool when it's tragedy. It's kind of tragic when I'm sitting across from the person who's telling it to me. Everything they do seems to only put them back in the funnel a little further down. Great example, Romeo and Juliet. Remember the intro, the prologue? Yes. These star-crossed lovers who in the end take their life, they don't even hide it from you. That's 6 lines into the show, and you already know how it's going to end. This is not a murder mystery, guys. We know who done it. And 6 lines in, you know who done it. But it's a closed story. You know that whatever these people do, however they arrange this, however they go back and forth, it's a closed story. It's heading down. Now, if it's in my office, closed stories often also come with this impermeability. No new facts, no new data. There are folks like that. I don't want you to tell me any more about what I could do, what I might do. I'm focused on my story and I'm totally focused on it. And I'm not going to hear what you have to say. You could say you're a brilliant person, you have terrific potential, and they go, no, I don't. And I'm going to reject that, and you're making that up. You're only saying that to please me. You're only saying that because you think you have to. No, I really think so. No, you don't. Closed story. No, no new data. I am heading down the funnel. I fight it. I'm angry at it. But in a weird way, I accept it. And I reinforce it. And I head on down the funnel. Now, in Romeo and Juliet, it very predictably ends with the death of Romeo and Juliet. And guess what? Closed stories often end in a death. Now, it frequently is the death of a dream, or a death of a family, or a relationship in my world. But we're not insensitive to the fact that sometimes it ends in violence because people see no way out. It's a closed story. I have gone down the funnel. I now see there is nothing for me but some sort of weird vindication of I will do the violent thing and I will die before the funnel kills me. That's for real. That happens out there. That's the most extreme closed story. When the person in the closed story says, I'm in a dilemma, there is no way out. The only thing that's going to happen is shame and disgrace at the end. And I'm going to do something before that happens. Because I cannot endure that. And sometimes it's to themselves, sometimes it's to other people.
Sometimes that's you, and sometimes that's other people.
Yeah.
You're gonna have that for a little longer.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the question is. This is what goes on in.
So that's either I'm gonna kill myself or I'm gonna kill somebody.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now notice that in a closed story, violence can be a kind of vindication. Yeah, I know. Okay, let's see if I can. John Wayne movie, The Searchers. Okay, spoiler alert, but let me go through it. So a guy shows up on the Texas frontier in the 19th century. He discovers his niece has been kidnapped by the Comanches. He searches for her for years. But the movie is about how he goes from this noble guy who's searching for her to how his hatred for the Comanches grows and grows and begins to consume him. And the rescue mission becomes a revenge mission. That the violence becomes the point. And so there's this shift over that if we watch the movie and just watch that shift from I'm going to save the day to I'm so full of hatred that the only thing I will accept is revenge and death of Comanches. And then he discovers her. Okay, spoiler alert. Then he discovers her. And in the 2 years he's been searching, she has been integrated in the Comanche tribe. He approaches her. You don't know if he's going to save her or kill her. He is at that moment when he has been living a closed story that has been more about hatred, 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 kill, kill, kill. And he's got that one moment. Is he going to open this story or is he going to leave it closed, follow up to his logical conclusion? We don't know in the movie. I'm going to make you watch it to find out which one he does. But that's a closed story, and that's that moment. And you've probably read and seen other where there is a moment where the person isn't saving the world, they're saving themselves from a closed story. It has to be this way. No, wait a minute, maybe it doesn't have to be this way. Maybe by some different act, I could leap over into an open story. Now, an open story is a story that it's about the journey. It's about moving on. There's a lot of motion in it. Lord of the Rings, classic open story. Bunch of guys going to save the world. Well, they're hot, they're short, but they're nice. And they get on and they journey in here and they save this, they save that. And it's all about, yeah, the next cool thing. There's no close to that. No inevitable sort of, no, we're just, whatever the next thing is, we're adventurers and we will adventure. Now, marvelous scene I showed some of my professional things, which is much more about personal open story than Lord of the Rings. I'm not a hobbit. I'm not even, not even Gandalf. I'd like to, I've grown the beard longer maybe. It's in that miniseries, The Pacific, about World War II in the Pacific. Follows a Marine company. They have a very desperate fight for the island of Peleliu. And the commanding officer that night goes to speak with the men that are left, and they're sitting around dejected. And he tells them, you know, every man I lose, I have to believe it's worthwhile because our cause is just. That's a guy who is in the midst of this funneling down, closed story, life's awful and it's getting worse. And he changes the script. I have the belief that this is worth it because. Now, for y'all's characters, you could fill in the because. But if you want someone out of a closed story, they got to have a because. It takes some real effort if you find yourself halfway down that funnel of awfulness to leap into a more open story. Often it's done with an ally. In real life, it could be a therapist, a loved one who comes and says, you know, let me help you. And the person who's got the closed story believes in that transformation and gets out of the closed story into more open. But it's usually a moment, and most people remember it. Usually a moment, and most people remember it. Okay, how we doing on open and close? This is, as I say, this is this huge long thing, and I'm just trying to cull through what you might find useful. Absolutely can be an event. Absolutely can be an event. One of the classics is the whole AA philosophy. When people have lost everything in their closed and narrowing story, they find that they can write another story. I listen to people who have, not doing what they did necessarily, but that it's possible, and they learn how to write an open story that's got possibilities and does not have to end that way. That's a classic that goes on, you know, thousands of times a day all over the world, from a closed story to an open story. Yeah.
Example, in Vietnam, commanding officer calls his people together and says, we are completely surrounded by thousands of them. And this gives us, for the first time, an opportunity to kill them in all directions.
Yeah. A lot of times there is also humor there. Remember, in a closed story, there's less and less humor as you're going through. People don't laugh as the funnel crowds them in. Matter of fact, one of the things that I see when people are talking about is a total lack of humor, or a very sarcastic, cynical humor that's not really humor. Kind of humor.
By the way, they won.
Just, yeah. But genuine humor, where I can laugh at my circumstance, is often the way out of that. Okay, so I have to now make a decision. Ooh. There's been something I've been wanting to do. I do it for therapeutic reasons and for some consulting, but I'd like to just try it to see if we could do it for writers. And I need a volunteer. Thank you, Kathy, for volunteering. Would you please come on? Everyone else will get a chance, perhaps, to volunteer. Part of the reason I picked you is that you have a series. And I'm suspecting that this might be the best used with a series.
Okay,
Okay? Okay, so who's your protagonist?
Pastor Matt Hayden.
All right. Pick someone in this room to stand in for Pastor Matt Hayden. By the way, you won't have to act or anything. You really are just a placeholder, and you might have a sentence to say. So don't freak out. Okay. Cool. Come on up. Now, in Matt Hayden's world, this whole space, Matt Hayden's world.
Okay, and we need to move our space this way a little bit for the.
All right.
Okay, we're good.
Where does Matt stand? Is he in the middle of his world? He's off to one side. Where does Matt stand in Matt's world?
off to the side.
Oh, just like over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. There's Matt.
He's kind of, yeah,
There's Matt. Now, I've read your stuff,
I know.
so I know there are two Matts.
He critiqued myself. He critiqued
There are
my-
two Matts. There's Pastor Matt and there's Policeman Matt. Pick someone to play Policeman Matt.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, in your story, Pastor Matt is like here. Where is Policeman Matt?
in-
Where is he hidden?
in his memory.
Okay, so I'm gonna take you, I'm gonna put you behind her because she is masking you. You're in there somewhere, but Pastor has to mask it, right? Okay, so now who is there's a look at this.
Oh, yes.
Okay, pick someone to look at. All right. Where does she fit in this? There's Pastor Matt, there's
Oh,
Cop Matt, where? I forgot her name. What's her name?
Angie.
Angie. Where does Angie fit?
Okay, come forward a little.
Aha.
Just stay there.
Yes. Okay. Now, we
Because
can-
Angie is a very sexy redhead who owns the bar across the river from the church.
yes.
So, there you go. He may be a man of God now, but he's still a man, so.
So here's what we're going to do just to give you some insights. I'm
Okay.
going to bring you over here.
Okay.
And I'm going to put you in Pastor Matt's place.
Oh, okay.
And when you look at the world from Pastor Matt's place, well, there's Angela. What do you think? You're Pastor Matt. What are you thinking?
I'll look the other way.
I will look the other way because the story you're telling yourself is I should not what?
Be attracted to her.
I should not be attracted to her because
She's
she
is a
will
bar owner and it will ruin my reputation.
derail my identity here. I'm supposed to be the pastor. If I look that way, I could mess with this identity. Ooh, okay, now I'm gonna pull you out. I'm gonna put Pastor Matt back, and I'm gonna bring you back to Cop Matt. Let's now stand in Cop Matt's place. What does he think about the world?
It's dangerous. Look,
It's a dangerous place.
Yeah.
What does he think about Pastor Matt?
he hopes he makes it,
Uh-oh.
but can a peace-loving, God-loving man really survive the world?
I think Cop Matt already has that answer. What is his answer?
Yes.
He can survive?
But he needs me. I like that, Tom.
He
That's
can
good.
survive, but only with my help.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Let's put you in Angie's place. Now, the weird thing I know about
Oh,
Angie's
no.
place is you got these two mats. What do you do with two mats?
In my inner self, he looks really good.
Oh, he looks really good.
And with this one, hell no.
Ooh, so you have two different stories going on in your head. This would work. This won't. Problem is, of course, they're the same actual physical person.
Well, there is that.
But in a way, you have two characters,
Yes. Oh,
and
absolutely.
each one has their own story.
Yes, they do.
One is the world will work like this, and the other is hell no, the world won't work like that. But I mean, you're dead.
Right.
And she's going, I need to what?
Stay as far away from him as possible. I'm out of the camera now. Bye, guys.
You're gonna stay as far away as possible.
But she,
But you don't. What brings her back?
well, he ends up being kind of, he's not the conservative snob that would condemn me.
Oh, okay. So you start to know Pastor Matt, and he's not what the story you were telling yourself about him. He's not actually that.
No.
No. No.
Like, how's that gonna work with my customers?
Too bad for business.
It could be bad for business.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna put all this back. I'm gonna drag you out.
Okay.
Now you've got a lot going on in your books, but just this? What do you see when you see this triangle? It's a love triangle.
I guess it is.
What do you see from the outside? Turmoil.
Inner turmoil in the characters.
Is there a solution here? It's okay to say no.
Yeah, they are constantly working through it.
They're constant. So it's not a closed story, it's an open story, but there's no obvious solution yet.
No,
Oh, well, let's hope there never is, and you can write a gazillion of them.
well, that was one of my thoughts.
Yeah. Is, not to give away if you don't want to, but is there a bad guy that's coming in your next?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
get someone to be the bad guy.
Hey, Dave.
He just left.
If you don't want to, that's
No,
okay.
no, that's okay.
No,
My dear, although I think you look lovely, he looks much more like a bad
Okay. Oh, what flattery will.
guy. Well, my goodness, okay.
Now, here's what's important.
Yes. Come on, Dave.
We need to figure out a place for the bad guy
Uh-huh.
in this love triangle. Because the bad guy will affect these three characters.
Uh-huh.
And you get to choose how. And we can play with it. Oh, okay. Now, and where's the bad guy?
Right there.
Right there. What's different about this?
Well, Angie trusts his cop instinct.
Okay, well, why is she in front of the cop?
Well, I was kind of just kind of clustering.
Oh, well,
If they were walking around in a circle. I would think,
let me try something,
Sure.
and this may not work because they're your characters. We're
No,
gonna do
no,
it.
no.
This is an experiment. What if she says, I need the cop to protect me?
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Matter of fact, what if she grabs Pastor Hayden and say, come back here with me because Cop Matt also needs to
Protect him.
protect him. So how is this guy gonna take advantage of that situation? Yeah, they're all lined up. How is the bad guy gonna take advantage of that situation? See, that's the real question in a story.
Yeah.
I get people after they've been taken advantage of. You have the luxury of getting them before they've been taken advantage of. So how you want to rig it?
Well,
Because we're all waiting to find out. Read the next installment.
well, here's, in the next installment,
Okay.
you do something really bad
Okay, to one of these guys?
to Matt Hayden.
Pastor or cop?
There you go. The
Ah,
pastor part really feels the loss. You are ready to go after him.
oh, so part of what happens here is we have what I called before, role conflict. We got these guys got split
They got split. They get split.
on how Pastor Hayden says we should deal with the guy this way. Cop Hayden says we should deal with the guy this way.
Yep.
Angie says what?
Well, okay, Angie understands,
And she understands that because she lives in the real world.
but she also realizes when this guy is about to kill that one,
Mhm.
that that's not who Matt is.
Let me suggest another way to do this.
Okay.
Just kill him first.
Is when this guy, when Cop Matt is about to kill this one,
Yeah, she comes running up and like,
he's also about to kill that one.
exactly,
And he
exactly,
can't shoot that one without shooting that one.
exactly.
And Angie knows this.
Yep.
And comes in and says, don't do that to Pastor Matt, not to him.
No, right, she says it to him,
Yeah.
and she says, you are not a murderer,
Uh-huh.
which happens to be like the same thing that kind of got him to be a pastor in the first place.
Let me suggest, oh, that's clever, because what we have here is the one thing these people agree on, is neither one of them is a murderer. And that's how Angie gets her power to resolve it, is she comes into this split and says, wait a minute, there's something you have in common, that you can be split, but there's this one thing. And that's going to be dominant.
That's it.
Thank you, guys. Have a seat. Have a seat.
You are in so much trouble.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Wouldn't let me kill anybody. Shoot.
Okay, we're just for the end of time. If you have questions, I would love to have questions. I've never actually, I normally do this called a psychodrama. I normally do it for professional reasons and occasionally workshops. I've never done it for writers about fictional people. It's different.
I just wanted to ask, so you editing or like if someone?
Not if I can help it. I have trouble editing my own stuff,
Okay.
you know. But I'm always happy to, if someone wants to email me with a question about why would someone do something, I'm always happy to spout off like I know something. You know. Other questions?
How did you do that?
Do what?
Because, I mean, what you just did with those characters are what's in my head. But
What I did is I made an external model of what you were telling me was going on inside your head. I would suggest you could replicate this by drawing out a map of the characters and their relationships with each other. Even better, use Post-it notes so you can decide to play with it. Well, what if Angie's actually a little attracted to the villain? Or what if Angie arrives too late? Or what if, I mean, you can draw maps and maps. Sometimes doing it physically will liberate things in your brain that just thinking about it words won't. Sometimes drawing it out will liberate some things that just writing it out won't. That's how that works. I recruited other parts of your brain to help with the solution. Other questions before we wrap it up? We are wrapping it up for 3, right?
well, we do have some more time or not, whatever you would like.
Ooh, oh, don't do that to me because I'll take it. Is that okay with you all?
About 10, 15 more minutes?
Sure. Let me give you another lens. All right, cool. Oh, yeah, let me talk about the moral slide. It's not a ride at Six Flags, by the way. It's a very human thing that happens. Sometimes we take actions that we either have to take or believe we have to take or find ourselves taking. I mean, it's like just a fact, however we got there. Well, one possibility is to be assaulted by guilt and shame. None of us like that. Door number 2 is I adjust my morals to make that okay, or okay in that instance. But you see, morals are tricky things. Because when you adjust the morals to say it was okay to kill that guy, now you have to adjust your worldview, which says it's okay for me to kill people. See, if it's not okay, if my worldview says it's not okay for me to kill people, then I can't do the moral thing, it's okay to kill that guy, but I killed him. Okay, so let's start with I killed him, so it was okay, I had to keep it quiet or he was going to everything. But now my worldview changes to think sometimes it's okay. That's why you have, you know, the stories where at the end the killer said, I just meant to kill that one guy, but then I had to kill another one, I had to kill another one, I had to kill another one, because he found out and he found moral slide. Or you have a person who did something for a pretty reasonable reason. It was awful, but it made some sense. But several chapters later, they work their worldview where they can do all sorts of bad things. And you wonder what the moral slide. Okay, I do one bad thing that I believe is bad. Shame and guilt, no, I'll adjust my morals, so that's okay. So I don't have to deal with shame and guilt. Plus, I got to support that, so I adjust my worldview, which makes allowance for that. Well, something very similar shows up, so I do the same action or one just as bad. But now I have to tweak my morals some more. Wait, by the way, that means I have to tweak my worldview some more. And pretty soon I've moved from a worldview that was way over there to a worldview that's way over here. You know, I've gone from, you know, Mother Teresa to Adolf Hitler. Well, that would take a lot of time, but step by step, you can keep changing your worldview to support. I mean, how many times have you heard he had it coming? Worldview, adaptation, killed him. Well, but it was why? Why? Because he had it coming. Now that's my new worldview, and it stays in there. I don't just flip back to my old worldview. Can't do that. I got to be in this worldview now. That's how I see the world. And that's how you have people that start out as pretty decent people. And after a while, they're very suspicious, paranoid, violent, confrontive, aggressive, because they live in a very unsafe world. Did they start that way? Again, reference to the Godfather series. Michael starts out as a hero in World War II, as a guy who does not want to do things wrong, who has some sense of value for human life. And you catch him further down the series, and he's knocking off people faster than his dad ever did. And if you see the movie, by the way, you notice a blankness about him. Because that's not what he's done. That's the new worldview that says, I don't have feelings anymore. Feelings are dangerous, feelings are bad. He used to have feelings. You catch it at the beginning of the series, he has feelings, he has big feelings. He has feelings for his wife, he has, okay. But by this time, he doesn't have feelings for anything. That's a worldview adjustment. Feelings are dangerous, feelings are bad, feelings prevent me from doing what I need to do. They're bad, they're wrong. He no longer has love for his wife, he no longer has love for anybody. Because he doesn't have the capacity, because his worldview's changed. Moral slide, it doesn't go from action to, totally different person. It goes incrementally, adjust the morals, adjust the worldview. Next thing, adjust the morals, adjust the rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Got a long enough novel, they can get pretty bad by then. Even if they were pretty good by the first. Yeah, moral slide. Ooh, got your expression. That's cool. I like when that happens. Real quick, another lens. Yeah. When I talk to people, typically they give me 4 different human themes for how they think life is. Worldviews. Number 1, we call it fulfillment. Things were good. Things are pretty good now. I expect things to be pretty good in the future. I expect to be fulfilled. Things were pretty good. Things are pretty good now. I expect them to continue to be good in the future. Wow, that's a whole different way of going through the world, isn't it? Now, the plus side of this is these people are all often able to accomplish things because they believe there's a reason to accomplish something. Hey, I can be part of this good thing. This, it'll be better in the future. I'll do this, I'll do that, and we'll build a better future. Cool. There's a dark side. There's a dark side. There's things are pretty good for me. It's pretty good now for me. Things will be fine for me in the future. The heck with you. I'm okay. Hey, you can play this one from dark or light. It could be the guy that comes up with the great invention. It could be the guy that doesn't because he doesn't care about anybody else. You can play it either way. These are not morally balanced here. They're just different ways that people look at it. Well, now let's look at the other one, which is redemption. Things were bad. Then things changed and got good. And they will stay good if I act correctly. They'll stay good if I act correctly. The good side of this is a very redemptive arc. Again, reference to AA meetings. If I keep going, I can hang on to this good thing, this good change. If I don't, I might lose it. And that's the light side. What's the dark side of that one? Things were bad, things are good now. If I live correctly, oh, and you need to live correctly, and you need to live correctly, and you do too. And it all needs to be something I recognize as correctly, or I'm going to get really anxious that we've now violated this, and we're going to go back to the bad thing. So I need to do something to force you to do the thing that I think is saving us from the bad thing. And human beings can get pretty rigid and You want a great plot for one of your bad guys? He's saving the world from going from backsliding into the horror that was before. But he has to make sure that everyone does it right. And those that can't do it right, he has to eliminate. Because he's saving everybody, because he believes in this redemptive arc, the shadow side of it. Yeah. Great or good? Yeah. I killed it before he capsized the lifeboat. We're all good. So again, these are not morally valence, they're just the ways it goes. Number 3, contamination. Things were good. Matter of fact, things were ideal. And then something happened, usually some sort of failure, and now things are ruined. And they're going to stay ruined because they're just ruined. Yeah, my stepfather, Owen, used to talk about the good old days when everything was right, wonderful. You know, people made lots of money and deals only cost 35 cents, you know, da, da, da. And finally, I said, okay, Owen, I can't. When were the good old days?
Huh.
And he starts talking about the 1930s, 1940s. I said, okay, no, wait a minute. Which are you telling me about? You like being involved in a worldwide financial collapse or at the cutting edge of global war? I mean, which one should I think is like the good old days? Then it hit me. Yeah, he was young. That's what made it the good old days. It didn't matter what happened. It was who he was when it was happening, and he felt better than he did now. Okay, so, so the light side of the contamination sort of theory is a recognition that something's going wrong. There's a leak in the boat. But there's also a pretty potent dark side to this contamination theme. Everything's ruined. Everything's ruined. I actually don't even remember long time ago, an episode, and it was a TV episode, and the teenager killed this guy, and when they asked her, she said, well, the world is ending, what does it care? What do you care where that goes? The world's ending, in 30 days. Oh, contamination. It's all ruined. What does it matter what I do? All of a sudden, all bets are off. The world is ruined. And last one, annihilation. And you can pop those of you with a logical sense of mind. Things were bad. Things are bad. Things are going to continue to be bad. There's no change here. Now, some of the folks I work with, I tend to work with adults. But some of the adults I work with were gang members back in the day, gangbangers. And they tell me that this is the dominant philosophy of the gang. Things are awful. Things now are awful. Things were awful. Things are awful. Things are going to continue to be awful. There's no change. There's no redemption. This is a closed story. The only difference is what you're going to do in the meantime. You want to be the guy with the gun that shoots the other one, or you want me to be the one with the gun that shoots you? That's the difference here. Because it's not going to get better. It's not like any single act you do will transform anything because there's no belief in transformation. This is not a redemptive arc here where if I could just figure out what to do, I could just make a big move, things would be, but no, that's erased from their world. There is nothing you can do to make this better. But maybe you can take out your anger and frustration on those around you so everyone's living the same arc you are. You think you have a good life? I will change that to you're living my arc. And I'll get some satisfaction out of that. Not the satisfaction of building, the satisfaction out of making sure that you don't get a better deal than I do. That's the way gangs work. It's the dominant philosophy.
And that's called the elimination one?
It's annihilation.
Annihilation.
We're just going to be annihilated. It doesn't matter. Matter of fact, we were already annihilated. We're just living it out until we feel over.
So I work in juvenile justice, And I have a lot of kids whose parents, uncles, aunts, great uncles, grandparents have all been in prison. They do not see any future in which they are not in prison.
They're living that annihilation
And it's horrible. to watch.
worldview.
I've been working with this group for 20 years.
And sometimes you talk to people and you can say, but if you could only do this, well, that's fine if they
Suicide.
believed you. But the worldview is there is nothing they can do that's going to
Suicide
change
is
it.
always an option.
So that if you do something, then you're being a fool because it's not the way the world works. And that's not the way the world works. It won't help. It won't be anything except it might leave me open to things getting worse. But for that 4 worldviews, and it really depends, there are pluses and minuses, most of them. You can use them as a lens to look at your character. Which of these 4 are they living? Particularly if there's a redemptive arc, is there something that happens or something they can do that will kickstart that redemptive piece and make things better? I love reading stories like that. I don't like the Annihilation one very much, but there are stories out there where, it starts bad and it ends bad.
Would that be a lot in the noir?
Sure. No, I have to admit that's way more entertaining than writing about the fulfillment arc, which is things were great now, they're going to be great. It's like, yeah, I'd love to live it, but I don't really want to read about it. It's not very much conflict in that. Redemptive arc, there's a ton of conflict. And even in that sort of corruption sort of piece, contamination, when there is still that sense of trying to keep the world going in spite of everything. I mean, that's kind of cool. Annihilation, again, there's not very much conflict in it. You kind of know how it's going to end.
Well, that's why I'm saying noir. Because it
Sure.
starts out with this person, protagonist, perhaps,
Sure.
who's in a really bad spot.
Right.
And he's miserable. And by the end of the story, the character arc, it's just not much fun. It's like a flat line. At the end of the story, that protagonist is even more messed up,
Sure.
more sad. So that sounds like the
Yeah, that film noir, he walks the main streets of the city.
Yeah.
And could we walk some different streets? No, I mean, why do you walk? Another movie that to me shows an annihilation theme, though it's supposed to be heroic, is that old movie Shane. He rides in alone. He saves the town. You think he's going to connect with his family that he's always wanted, but in the end, he rides off alone. And it's like, wait a minute, there were these moments that you thought there'd be some sort of redemptive moment for him, but oh no, it's annihilation. He's not going to be able to make good on those life-changing moments. He's going to ride off again, into the sun, literally into the sunset, probably go to another town, probably do the same thing, and then ride up. I mean, like, really? That's an annihilation thing. Nothing, it looks like he's going to change things. He has to be gunfight, he saves the town, but it never works for him. He saves the town, but he never saves himself. He rides on the sunset. Okay, guys, it's time for me to ride off the sunset.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed being here with y'all. You guys are terrific. I have learned how important that is. And for those of you that volunteered and came up, I appreciate it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna give us your $3 bill.
I will give you my $3 bill. Don't cost you $3. No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the record, folks, next month, our July 10th meeting will also be a Zoom meeting because our speaker is in the south, northwest. So bottom line is we'll be doing it on Zoom. But we will still have our gathering here. And actually, we'll probably do a little bit more socializing as well. But our speaker is phenomenal, kind of like ours today. Kate Lawley, she is a member of our chapter, even though she lives up in the Northwest, which is one reason we are sticking with hybrid Zooms, because we have now, over COVID, actually pulled in members that aren't really within drivable distance. So we're really grateful for all of you who are with us today on Zoom. So Kate Lawley is going to speak about Marketing 101, a three-pronged attack. She'll discuss book packaging, how to gain visibility for your books, and how to keep readers once they've finished your book. Kate Lawley writes humorous, action-filled mysteries that frequently contain a paranormal twist. And when she's writing as Kate Beret, she writes page-turning urban fantasy with relatable characters. For more about Kate, and again, did this go around that you guys saw our newsletter? It did, it passed through? Okay, very good. I really appreciate it if you wanted to sign up for that, because we really try to keep you posted. Now, it also said in the newsletter, besides having some snacks and stuff today, we have a raffle for some books that were given to us at different conferences. And we're going to make this really, really simple. Bill, go out of the room.
Oh.
Okay,
How much you like the presentation?
I do. I did. I love the presentation. It's not. Okay, everyone here, between 1 and 30, pick a number. Because yes, I forgot the raffle tickets. Okay, so pick a number. Okay, what's your number?
15.
16.
13.
Whoever comes closest to what Bill, I'm going to ask, or Maureen, do you want to play?
Sure, please do.
Good Lord, everybody's 20s. Jeez. Okay, come on in, Bill. Now, you get to pick a number between 1 and 30.
Okay.
Okay, and then whoever is closest to your number, and I have 1, 2 numbers, so I have 3 books back there, so we can have a double number. Okay, so pick a number.
28.
Ah.
All right, we have a winner, and you are? Pam. Pam, excellent. Pam is going to be able to pick up some books. We have some stuff over there. And finally, before we finish adding this up, we are going to be taking Bill and his lovely wife out for a snack afterwards. And we would love everyone to join us. Bill, where are we going? The Grove?
I'm far away from home at this part of town. I don't know.
Okay, the Grove. We are going to be going to the Grove. It's kind of at the corner of 360 and what's this main highway out here, Maureen?
Okay.
Bee Caves. So Bee Caves, and right before you get to 360, it'll be on your right. All right, thank you everyone so much for coming. My gosh, my heart is just overwhelmed with that, with everybody coming in. And thank you, Zoom people. Take care. See you next month.
Thank you. Yeah, you take a right on Bee Cave Road
Thank you.
and right before you get to 360.